Okay, now we are back, same at chapter 11, but we are looking at now a new section, a new topic under chapter 11. All right, now this is the notice on, these are guidelines on the application approval of arrangements under Regulation 32CB, or the Financial Advisors Regulations, right? Now this has been last revised 1st August 2019. Right? So this is the guidelines for the ACMF framework. Right? You look at definitions under paragraph 3. Under this particular regulation 32CB, China, Bangkok. Right? So the purpose of this guideline, there's this thing called ACMF framework. ACMF meaning ASEAN Capital Market Professional Mobility Framework. ASEAN Capital Market Professional Mobility Framework, ACMF. Right? And there's also an ACMF handbook, all right, which means the handbook on the ACMF pass, underline that one, under the ACMF framework. Okay? Now, look, what is the ACMF pass? This is one which you will need to understand in order to understand this particular set of guidelines. Right, the ACMF pass means an arrangement between a relevant entity and a Singapore entity. All right, relevant entity, whichever the entity may be, and a Singapore entity, approved by the authority, namely the MAS, under this particular regulation 32CB, in relation to the provision of the financial advisory service specified under paragraph 8A of this guideline. Now pause for a little while, we will go to 8A later on. Now look at the next definition, ACMF participant. Now this means a relevant entity that is providing a financial advisory service in Singapore, affected under the arrangement approved by the MAS under this particular regulation of 32CB. Right? And ASEAN, I think we all know what ASEAN means. Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Right? And then there's also another thing known as a cross-border publication of a research report arrangement. Right? So there's this publication as well, apart from the ACMF participant and the ACMF pass. All right. So when we talk about cross-border publication of research report arrangements, we are looking at an arrangement between a relevant entity, all right, whichever the relevant entity may be, and a hosting platform operator. Hosting platform operator approved by the authority under the regulation 32CB in relation to the provision of financial advisory services under paragraph 8B of these guidelines. All right, so we need to look at 8B a bit closely later on. All right, and then the host entity means an application for the approval of the ACMF pass means a Singapore entity. All right, so we are talking about a host entity. So the host entity relates to the application for approval of an ACMF pass. All right, so the host entity in relation to that pass means a Singapore entity that is proposing to enter into an arrangement with a relevant entity in relation to the provision of financial advisory service specified under paragraph 8A of this guidelines. So that's one. 2, or an application for approval of a cross-border publication of research report arrangement, meaning a hosting platform operator that is proposing to enter into the arrangement with that relevant entity in relation to the provision of financial advisory services specified under paragraph 8B of this guideline. All right, so there are two things there. And hosting platform operator means any person, all right, mentioned in paragraph 2A, 2 and 3 above in terms of the regulation 32CB, who will be making available research reports, right, whether in electronic form, print form, and any other form, containing advice by the ACMF participant concerning any ASEAN capital market products to investors in Singapore. All right, so you are talking about products, specified ASEAN capital market products to investors in Singapore. All right, pursuant to this cross-border publication of research report arrangement. All right, I just pause there for a little while, let that sink in a little bit, right? So those are the definitions. Okay, now coming down the line there, recognized ACMF member means a regulatory authority that is specified in the appendix of these guidelines, right? And then the meaning of a recognized representative, all right, means a person by whatever name call, all right, whether it's an agent, financial advisor, representative, any kind of representative in the direct employment of or acting for or by arrangement with an ACMF participant who performs on behalf of the ACMF participant any financial advisory services in Singapore pursuant to the ACMF pass, right? Whether or not he's remunerated or whether his remuneration is by way of salary, wages, commission or otherwise, and includes an officer of the ACMF participant. Right, you will know that the ACMF participant means a relevant entity that's providing a financial advisory service in Singapore effected under the arrangement of 32CB. Right? Well, Singapore entity simply means a licensed financial advisor or exempt financial advisor. Right? So you got a Singapore entity, you got a relevant entity involved. All right, and yeah. Then specific ASEAN capital market products means the following types of ASEAN capital market products. A, shares that are listed for quotation or quoted on the organized market in any member country of ASEAN. Okay, so those are the shares and the bonds. All right. All right. Bonds, whether or not such bonds are listed for quotation or quoted on organized market in any member country of ASEAN. And of course, units in the investment scheme, whether or not such investment scheme are issued for quotation or quoted on organized market in any member country of the ASEAN. Now, there's also a specified ASEAN participating country, right? So this is given in the appendix. A couple of countries are specified ASEAN participating countries. Right? Means ASEAN participating country that's in the appendix. Okay. Right. So that is that. Now this is regard to the application for an arrangement. Right. Now this of course follows from the fact that at paragraph 4, that under section 6(1) of the Act, that no person should act as a financial advisor without having a financial advisory license, unless he is authorized to do so by a financial advisor's license or as an exempt financial advisor. So pursuant to that particular law, so this regulation 32CB prescribes a relevant entity as an exempt financial advisor. All right. So the regulation 32CB prescribes this relevant entity as an exempt financial advisor under section 23(1)(f) of the Act. All right, in respect of a financial advisory service provided under an arrangement, all right, this is a special arrangement between the relevant entity and a company incorporated in Singapore, or unincorporated association formed or constituted in Singapore, or a licensed financial advisor, or a finance advisor who is exempt under the particular section, and of course approved by the MAS in pursuant to an application made to the authority. Okay. Then 6 talks about individuals or representatives of the relevant entity are not required to be appointed as to be appointed or to be appointed financial advisor representatives or provisional financial advisor representatives under the Act. If there's a big qualification there, if the type and scope of the financial advisory services provided by the representatives are within the type and scope of or are the same as that provided by the relevant entity. Meaning to say, the relevant entity, all the expertise and experience and the track record to provide advice on that type of financial advisory service. All right, and the manner in which the representatives provide that type of financial advisory service is the same as the manner in which the relevant entity provides that type of financial advisory service. All right, so there is an exception there. All right, the authority only considers arrangements made between the relevant entity and the host entity for approval under Section 32CB. All right, now as I said, 8A is the important paragraph, and 8B. All right. Now just read slowly so that I can try and explain to you a little bit on this one. Now the types of arrangement and financial advisory services which the authority considers for approval are. Alright, so it must fall within either A or B. Alright, where the MAS, the authority, will consider approving this particular arrangement. Alright, A, an arrangement between a Singapore entity and a relevant entity under the ACMF pass. Alright, this relevant entity under the ACMF pass in respect of the financial advisory service of advising others, whether directly or through publications or writings, whether in electronic form or other forms. Right? This is similar to the FAA. Concerning, this is the key, concerning any specified specified ASEAN capital markets products. Right? Other than the manner under paragraph 2 of the second schedule of the Act, or advising on corporate finance within the meaning of the Securities and Futures Act. Right? So, all right, so that is the type of arrangement whereby MAS can approve under Regulation 32CB. All right, I'll read to you one more time this one. An arrangement between a Singapore entity and a relevant entity under the ACMF pass, all right, in respect of the financial advisory service of advising others. All right, so you're providing financial advice to others, either directly, right? You advise directly or through publications or writings, and this may be in electronic or any other form. All right, so what kind of products are we talking about where you can give advice? All right, the products concerning any specified ASEAN capital market products. We have done that already in terms of shares listed on the on the relevant exchange on those countries. All right, and except for those that are mentioned in paragraph 2 under the second schedule. So that's the first part. Now this B part is an arrangement between a hosting platform operator, right? Hosting platform operator and a relevant entity under the cross-border publication of research report arrangements. All right? This is in terms of publishing of research reports. All right? The first one is in terms of advising services, right? In respect of financial advisory services of advising others. Here, B talks about research report arrangements, right? In respect, again, similar is financial advisory service of advising others. In this case, it's by issuing, all right, the medium, the method is by issuing or promulgating research analysis or research reports, all right, in any recognized form, electronic, print, or other form concerning the same set of products, specified ASEAN capital market products. Right? So I hope that is clear enough. Alright, if you want, you can go back to the definition, look at specified ASEAN capital market products, right? What those products mean. Alright, you turn back the page, you can see that under definition, specified ASEAN capital markets products. So these products mean, I repeat one more time, shares that are listed for quotation or quoted on an organized market in any member country of ASEAN. And then bonds, right? Whether or not such bonds are listed for quotation or quoted on an organized market in any member country of ASEAN, or units in a collective investment scheme, whether or not such units are listed for quotation or quoted on an organized market in any member country of ASEAN. All right? And then, of course, the specified ASEAN participating country means any ASEAN participating country is specified in the appendix. All right? So those are the limits, as it were, in terms of how this arrangement operates. All right? So 8A regard financial advisory services, all right, providing advice, and 8B in terms of the research report. All right? So paragraph 9, there's a caveat there. The approval of the arrangement should not be taken as an approval of all activities, all right, proposed to be conducted by the host entity under the arrangement. The host entity should ensure that the proposed activities are in compliance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations in Singapore, all right, including all applicable licensing requirements under the Act. All right, so it's not a free-for-all thing. You need to comply with the applicable law, rules, regulations in Singapore under the FAA. I hope that's clear enough. Now, let's look at the assessment criteria of the relevant entity. All right, the MAS, when assessing whether approval of the arrangement specified under paragraph 8A and B should be granted, the MAS will consider whether the relevant entity satisfies certain criteria, all right, including but not limited to the following criteria. A, whether it possesses a minimum of 5 years of corporate track record in the specific financial advisory services that's proposing to effect under the arrangement. So there's a minimum of 5 years track record experience. B, whether it's financially sound and has discharged its functions in an efficient, honest, fair manner. See, again, fit and proper thing, honesty, fair dealing thing, during the 5-year period mentioned in subparagraph A above, right? So first, minimum 5-year track record. 2, financially sound and discharge the functions in a proper manner. And C, whether it is licensed or otherwise authorized to conduct the relevant financial advisory services in specified ASEAN participating country and is subject to supervision by the recognized ACMF member having regulatory oversight in the specified ASEAN participating country. All right, so that's paragraph 10 in where the MAS set out the criteria for approving or otherwise the relevant entity to enter into the arrangement with the Singapore entity. All right, paragraph 11 says clearly that the list set out in paragraph 10, A, B, C, all right, they are not exhaustive. All right, so they reserve the right to refuse to grant approval as the authority deems fit, including where the authority is of the view that the arrangement may facilitate business practices or market conduct. Underline the next one, that could undermine, all right, that could undermine regulatory integrity, right, or pose a risk to financial stability and market confidence. All right, so notwithstanding the relevant entity can satisfy paragraph 10A, B, and C, MAS still reserves the right to say, hey, look, even though you satisfy 10A and B, if the MAS feels that, from his investigation and from his sources that, it may undermine the regulatory risks and financial stability to the country, then MAS may still say no. So they have a right to say no. Okay, so then the next part talk about the ACMF pass and then the responsibilities of the Singapore entity. All right, so the authority MAS expects the Singapore entity to ensure that all the recognized representatives must have the following criteria at all times, right? More than 21 years old, licensed or otherwise authorized to conduct the relevant financial advisory services, subject to the laws and regulations of the particular country, that's obvious, and satisfy the fit and proper criteria as set under section C in the Singapore section of the Section 2 in the ACMF framework. Now you want to take a look at the ACMF framework if you like, and you can see some of the conditions there, right, in terms of the ACMF pass, right? So those are the responsibilities of the Singapore entity, right? And regard to the recognized representative activities, right, the Singapore entity must ensure, right, that the recognized representative only act as a representative of the ACMF participant and no other. All right, and only restricted to the services in which they are allowed to advise or to write research reports on, right? And they make sure that the recognized representatives do not, circle the word not, conduct any one of the foreign activities, solicit sales, right? They are not supposed to solicit sales for any specified market products or provide advice, right? Unless they, okay, so that's it. Right, so the rest is similar, right? So here 14 talk about expert investor, institution investors, right? So yeah, so those are some of the issue to look at, right? And paragraph 16 talk about further conditions, restrictions imposed by the MAS. Right, in terms of the Singapore entity, maintain a register containing all the information such as the duration of the recognized representative's visit to Singapore to carry out the activities as approved, the person's qualification, the status of his license, or any other authorization in the jurisdictions other than Singapore. All right, and of course, Singapore entity should ensure proper documentation in relation to the approved arrangement, like materials circulated or presented to investors, right? And they must be up to date, right? And the Singapore entity shall implement policies, procedures to provide oversight, right, of the conduct of the ACMF participant and the recognized representatives. Right? So they must have procedures to provide oversight, handle complaints arising from the approved arrangement, and also resolving any disputes between the investors and the recognized representatives. All right, again, paragraph 7 says it's not exhaustive, so you have to, the relevant, the Singapore entity has to exercise common sense, all right, and to comply with whatever conditions and restrictions that the MS may impose from time to time, all right? Taking into account the particular arrangements proposed by the applicant, all right? So again, it's a case-to-case basis in this particular arrangement. All right? So this is the arrangement between a Singapore entity and a relevant entity in terms of financial advisory services and research reports. All right. So very quickly now, what's the validity of this ACMF pass? Now, upon approval of the ACMF pass, valid for a period of 2 years. All right, so the validity is 2 years, unless this ACMF pass lapses or is cancelled by the MAS prior to the expiry of this period. All right, if everything runs smoothly, then the validity is 2 years. If not, then MAS may revoke or cancel the ACMF pass as MAS deems necessary. Right. Now, if the Singapore entity intends to renew this ACMF pass, it must submit a renewal application at least 14 days, right? At least 14 days prior to the expiry of the ACMF pass, right? And the MAS, the authority, shall reassess the arrangement. So there's a reassessment there. It's not automatic. Whether the arrangement should be renewed, right? So it is not automatic renewal. It is a renewal is subject to a reassessment. Okay. All right. Now then, after that, the next paragraph 20 to 21 talks about the publication of the report arrangement. All right. The idea is the same. All right. In terms of the hosting platform operator. All right. And what kind of work should be done there. All right. So 20 paragraph A to F. Well, they are similar to what we have discussed, but this only in relation to research analysis and research reports. right, that are issued or promulgated by the ACMF participant, right, to the same classes of investors in Singapore, or as it is, or promulgated to in the specified ASEAN participant country, that's being licensed and supervised by the recognized ACMF member. All right, so the details are there. The guideline details are in paragraph 20A to F. All right, in terms of this arrangement for cross-border publication of research report arrangement. Right? Of course, paragraph 21 says the MAS can impose other conditions and restrictions upon the approval granted, right, as the authority deems fit. All right, taking into account the particular arrangements proposed by the applicants. Right? All right, paragraph 24 tells you about where to find the relevant website and so on. Okay, so, and paragraph 22 is quite specific. Under this particular regulation 32 CB, MAS reserve the right to review, cancel, or vary the approval of any arrangement, or impose new conditions or restrictions under the approval as the authority sees fit. All right, including whether there's a material change in the circumstances of the arrangement. All right, so a material change meaning a change in the substance of the arrangement rather than the form. All right, so when there's a change in the substance, then MAS may exercise its discretion, may exercise its right, right, in order to review, cancel, or vary. All right, and in terms of substance, here the guidelines also give you some examples. So substantial changes in the arrangement include the type of financial advisory services provided, the target clientele, or the role in the host entity, or changes in organization structure or names of entities, and similar organizational changes which do not affect the substance of the arrangement would not normally be considered material, right? So change in name, change in the restructuring, the organizational structure, and such internal organizational changes, right? So these changes may not affect the substance of the arrangement, and then as such, it may not be considered material. So it's not material, then that's it, right? It must be material and changes in substance for the MAS to review, cancel, or vary the approval. All right, now the appendix very quickly talk about the ASEAN participating countries. You got Thailand, you got Malaysia, you got Philippines, right? And the recognized ACMF member would be the Securities and Exchange Commission of Thailand, the Securities Commission of Malaysia, and the Philippines Securities and Exchange Commission. Now that covers very quickly this particular guideline. Okay. Now moving quickly, we look at the next guideline under Appendix 11D of your text. 11D. Here, these are the guidelines on provision of digital advisory services, which we have also taken a look at under the notice provision. Alright, so again, I do not propose to go into the details, but it suffices for me to draw your attention to paragraph 1. Alright, in relation to this provision of digital advisory services. Now you have a digital advisor, you have a robo-advisor as it were. Alright. So, look at paragraph 3, that's what it says there. Digital advisors, also known as robo-advisors, alright, provide advice on investment products to the direct access to, underline this one, automated algorithm-based tools by clients. Alright, so the clients are facing this automated algorithm-based, alright, with limited or no human advisor interaction. Alright, so this is inevitable process of digitalization. Alright, so we are going this way. In contrast, conventional FAs may rely on similar algorithm-based tools at the back end to help the representatives advise and service the client.